Reimagining Chapel. My name is Amanda Esco, and I am the Director of the Religious Education Program here at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Thank you for joining us today. Let's start off by lighting our chalice. Symbol of light, symbol of knowledge, symbol of warmth, symbol of freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope, the infinite possibilities of love. With our chalice lit, I'd like to invite us to ground ourselves in this space today. So if you're willing and able, please stand up. We're going to do this a little bit different today. I am going to ask you to take in a great big breath. When you've taken it in, I'm going to ding my bell. I want you to breathe out until you can no longer hear this bell dinging. Are you ready? Let's breathe in through our nose and out. Let's do that one more time. Deep breath in, out. It is so important for us to go back to our practices, to ground ourselves in our space, especially right now. Now, I think my very favorite part of Reimagining Chapel is joys and concerns. Whether we do this in person, like we did over Zoom last week, or on our YouTube channel, I invite you to share what's going well in your life, and maybe something that you need help with the people that are around you that love you the most. Now, I want to start, and I'm going to talk about the storm and the trees. My heart hurts because of all the downed trees in our city. We were lucky enough to keep our trees in our yard. They're pretty battered. A lot in our neighborhood fell down, and it caused a lot of problems. A lot of people were without power, and some had to leave their homes. It was a dangerous situation. I'm happy that our city is working with agencies to help clean it up, but it's still sad and a little bit scary that those things happen. I'm working through those feelings for myself. Now, what about you? What is going well? I know a lot of you started school. I hope that's going well for you. And maybe what you need help with. Share with those around you that love you, and I'll be right here waiting for you. In a turn of events, this week we are lucky enough to have Miss Lissa do our Wonderbox series. So I get to do our UU of the week. This UU was a poet, an artist, and a musician. I can't wait for you to hear how she renews herself with her creativity. Judith Goodenough, also known as J.B. Goodenough, was a Unitarian Universalist poet and musician. She was born in Kentucky, where her father was a librarian. Due to his work, her family lived all over the Midwest and finally settled in New York City. In high school, Judith fell in love with the arts. She loved playing the piano, dancing, and most of all, writing poetry. After graduating high school, Judith continued her studies at Radcliffe College and eventually Harvard University. In 1964, she earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from both Radcliffe and Harvard. While she was studying at Harvard, she met her husband, John Goodenough, who was also studying to be a mathematician and worked in the Air Force Decision Sciences Laboratory in Massachusetts. Shortly after graduating, John and Judith had their first child. Judith decided to stay home from work at this time and take care of their small family. It was while she was at home that her creativity with the arts was renewed. She began writing again. Along with writing poetry, she began to paint. She sold over 100 works of art. When her children were a little bit older, Judith wanted to start working again, and she began working at the First Religious Society of Carlisle, Massachusetts, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Through her work there, she felt her soul pulled to our faith. She began to attend, and her family became active in the congregation. In 1984, Judith published her very first book of poetry under the initials J.B. At the time, she told her friend she went by her initials because then her work was more acceptable to editors. Now, this has happened to several famous women authors over the years. Authors like Louisa May Alcott, George Eliot, and Charlotte Bronte are other examples of female authors that needed to use pen names. With her poetry being published in multiple publications, as well as her own collections, Judith turned her poetry into music. Her lyrics were inspired by the folk music sung with her friends in Harvard Square. Judith considered herself a muddy-booted Yankee by conviction. She was resourceful and crafty. Like a lot of artists, she was also slightly eccentric and could be found walking her neighborhood with her pet mini pig, Finnegan. Judith died on September 18th, 1990, in her home with breast cancer. Her funeral was held at her home church of the First Religious Society of Carlisle. During this service, she had her friend read these words: "Touch each other and be gentle with each other. Find your way back again into the winds and currents of your separate lives. Some part of me goes with you. Among you, a bit of wind or a touch of shadow or something a bird might have said." Judith Goodenough will be remembered as a gifted artist, finding herself time and time again through her creativity.
Thanks, Amanda, for that thrilling new addition to our UU of the Week collection. I'm Lissa, the Religious Education Assistant at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. I want to thank you for sticking it out this long with Reimagining Chapel. Guys, what is happening? This week, I have the Wonder Box. I'm so excited. I wonder what's in it. Let's see. Well, I can't really hear anything. Let's think about it. I know that this week in RE, we have been thinking about creativity as a way to renew ourselves. Maybe there's like something artsy in here, like a paintbrush. Should we see? What? It's a rose. Let's see if we can figure out why. Now, I love that we have been talking about creativity this week. I love this topic because I think being creative is the best skill a person can have in life. And I'm not alone in thinking this. A real scientist decided to do research about this topic, and they decided that creativity is in fact the best predictor of success. Because a person who can think of more than one way to solve a problem is more likely to solve that problem. Makes a lot of sense. Here's the thing about creativity. I think everyone is creative in some way in their life, even if they wouldn't call themselves creative. Sometimes people think you have to be artistic to be creative. I wonder if that's true. Back when I was an art teacher at 2 schools at the same time, I did an experiment. I taught every student in each school from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. Guys, I had 600 students, so I think this was a really good sample size for my experiment. But I asked all of them a really hard question, and I'm about to ask you the same question. Are you ready? Are you an artist? Raise your hand. Now, I can't see you, but I can guess what happened out there based on my experiment at the schools. And you can put your hands down. Thanks for participating. When I asked a room full of kindergartners if they were artists, every hand went up in the room and they waved them around like crazy people. When I asked first graders, every hand still went up, but they weren't quite as excited about it anymore. By 4th or 5th grade, only about half of the hands went up. And when I asked my 8th graders, 2 people said, yep, I'm an artist, but it was more of a shy, I guess so. What happened to all those kids as they got older, I wondered. I think as we get older, we start to compare the things that we create to other people's work. And I don't know about you, but I know I'm really hard on myself sometimes. And a lot of the time, I feel like my work isn't very creative at all. And instead of just feeling joyful and waving my hand high in the air because I made something and it feels great, I start to feel like less of an artist and less creative. Here's the thing. The root word of creativity is create. That means that anything you make is an act of creativity. We're not just talking about art here. Are you really good at baking bread? Or gardening? Or making friends? Making bread, helping things grow, and creating a friendship are all things that can make your life feel better, like this darling pink rose that grew in my garden. These are all things that can help you feel renewed or ready to take on another day. So find something you can create. Maybe it's an art rock to hide in someone's garden, or maybe it's a batch of cookies for your neighbor. Create some happiness out there. We could all use it. Thank you for watching Reimagining Chapel. Until next time, let's heart out.